Today I would like to speak about Krishna consciousness and Bhagavad Gita, which is our main book, and to try to explain what are we doing here in this movement, Krishna consciousness, and why this book is so popular that after 5,000 years people still read it, still translate it, still comment on it, still publish it. But the difference between this edition and other editions of the Gita, I have read other books also, other Bhagavad Gitas. There is many translations in the world. The difference between this one and others is that this is called Bhagavad Gita as it is. That means that it didn't change the original meaning, the original explanation, the original presentation or knowledge that has been given 5,000 years ago by Krishna. And this Bhagavad Gita is a conversation on the battlefield. You have seen here, you can see battlefield. And when I saw this, I thought, when I was reading this book, I saw that there is a lot of wisdom there, and I was very attracted. But I was a little bit confused why this is spoken on the battlefield, such an amazing wisdom. Because my understanding of spirituality was you go to the mountain, you find a guru or a yogi or somebody who is in a peaceful place, who has left the world. You approach him humbly to enlighten you and to tell you to also renounce the whole world, like he did. And to me this was spirituality. And then I saw that, this amazing wisdom, but spoken on the battlefield just about before the battle will start. And I couldn't understand why is this so. And then when I joined this movement and I saw how life is going on, then I understood that life is actually like a battlefield. We have to fight. Now what we have to fight with, maybe we have to fight with other people or family members or friends or colleagues or our boss. We have to fight with others, but it seems like Bhagavad Gita is speaking about two kinds of fight. Now Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight against his relatives and many close people who are close to him. He is telling him to fight against him because they are wrong. They are breaking the law. They are doing bad things. But another fight that Krishna was proposing to Arjuna is internal fight. That he fights with his own mind. That he controls his own mind. And one who has inner peace, he can actually be in the middle of the storm and remain peaceful. Maybe you have heard, I don't know if in German you have this expression, eye of the storm. That's the middle of the storm. So middle of the storm is actually, it doesn't move. There is a huge turmoil around this place, but the eye of the storm is actually either still or peaceful or something like that. And Krishna is teaching Arjuna to actually develop inner peace, even if he has to fight. And then as my life developed, I understood that this is very appropriate, that this is spoken on the battlefield, because sometimes you have to give just in time or instant help to someone, just when they are in trouble. One of the leaders here once called me in Germany, and asked me for a coaching session just before the meeting. They had a very important meeting, very intense meeting, very challenging meeting, and they asked me for a session, and we had a maybe 15 minutes conversation, and then this devotee prepared for this meeting. So this is a similar thing. It's like half an hour conversation or 45-minute conversation just before you have to do something very, very challenging. Very challenging. Sometimes maybe you have asked someone for help just before you have to do something or you have to face something. And this is a situation where Krishna is, we can say, coaching or counseling Arjuna how to fight and how to understand why to fight also. And sometimes people don't understand the purpose of doing something. So I said this book is 5,000 years old. So this is not something new. Sometimes people think that Krishna consciousness movement is a new religious movement, but actually it's older than any religion in the world. It's minimum 5,000 years, but actually it starts from the beginning of the universe, actually, according to the history books, like Puranas and Upanishads and Mahabharata, Ramayana. So this is not something new. And one thing that really attracted me to this philosophy and this lifestyle is, how you say, this very authoritative. When I saw that every word is translated, that original Sanskrit is transcribed, is a transliteration of original Sanskrit is there, and then very, very comprehensive purports or commentaries are there for every verse, I have seen that this is not that somebody has some speculations and that they, imagining something or improvising something, but this is something very solid, very authoritative, and then they speak about disciplic succession, and all the teachers in the disciplic succession are here in the beginning. I saw, wow, this is so authoritative. And then there is this reviews from scholars, people who study all kinds of books and all kinds of cultures, and these reviews, they praise Bhagavad Gita, and they praise this Bhagavad Gita so much. And I said, I have to read this. But I read it and I couldn't understand very much. And what really bothered me is that there is too many times repetition of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because my first Gita was not Prabhupada's Gita. It was very small, Penguin, Penguin? Pocket edition. There is one broken statue of Vishnu at the first page, at the cover. And I was carrying it everywhere. I was carrying this book with me because I felt this is such an amazing book. I was hitchhiking in Germany when I was young. I hitchhiked from Munich to Hamburg, so it's a long ride. Whole night I was driven by Muslims, some maybe Turkish people, and because they were so sleepy, they stopped at the Rastete. You know Rastete? They stopped there to pray. So they put this little carpet and they pray that they can stay awake until the morning because they have to be on time in the north of Germany. And I was carrying Bhagavad Gita with me when I was hitchhiking, and I was reading a little bit here and there, but there was no commentaries. And this edition didn't stress so much that there is God and that we have a relation with Him. I was more interested in wisdom. But then when devotees sent me this Bhagavad Gita in 1982, then I saw, oh, there is much more here. And this author is quoting some other books here. There is some other verses, and this is not only one book. There is other books also. And I saw this is a whole culture. This is amazing. This is like an empire. Actually, this is so rich. Then they send me back to Godhead magazine, and there you can see, oh, devotees dance, they act, they write, they cook, they have families also. That also shocked me. I thought spiritual life means you do it alone. How can you do it spiritual life with a family? That's impossible. But then I saw that there is families who are spiritual, they are Krishna conscious. The whole family is Krishna conscious. And I was really, really intrigued to visit these people in 1982. I wanted to visit them. And I hitchhiked from south of Serbia to Florence in Italy. And I had the best hitchhike in my life. Only 3 cars. Hitchhike.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't have money for the train.
I'm so sorry.
So I got one car. Maybe it brought me somewhere in Slovenia and
Slovenia?
Croatia, Slovenia, Italy. So first,
I know this.
yeah, so I had only three cars, and I was. I think it took me. It took me actually 24 hours to get there because I started in the afternoon, and then the next afternoon I was at the bottom of the hill, and at the hill there was a temple. And then I saw, wow, they have a huge temple here. And there was like 200 devotees there, 200 devotees in the temple. And then as I was learning about what is this all about, I saw that actually this is a very ancient civilization which was very successful, and it was very organized. It was very organized. And then Srila Prabhupada explains about Varnashrama Dharma. This is social. This is a social and spiritual. Social and spiritual, I will explain what. Social and spiritual orders, or how to say, social, yeah, orders, social and spiritual orders, and division of the society, but people misunderstand that this is a caste system, which is, they think this is artificial, and if you are born in a certain family you have more rights and things like that. And then Srila Prabhupada explained that this division in the society is according to people's qualities. It's not according to some birth, according to something artificial. And I saw that this is very scientific, very solid, and that it's explained who is responsible for what, and explains very much responsibility of leaders, explains responsibility of the father, of project leaders, community leaders, mother, guru, demigods. So everyone who has some kind of a responsibility is very much obliged to have high qualities and to have skills also. So I saw that this is actually, you have a whole blueprint for the whole civilization, how everything can be organized. And our movement in the last 50 years is trying actually to organize at least the society inside to according to these instructions, and following the example of that civilization. And in the Bhagavad Gita and the other books also, there is so much guidance how to do these things, and then we can learn how people are dealing with different situations, life situations. There is many great personalities who had many great challenges. Sometimes we complain that we have difficulties in life, but actually there were people who were, we can say, much more qualified than us, like Arjuna, but they had also many more difficulties, but the way they reacted to what happened to them is very instructive and very exemplary, and we can learn from them. And now, what is the purpose of the Vedas? Because Bhagavad Gita is a summary of all the Vedic literature, and some people may say the purpose of the Vedas is to become learned, to have knowledge. Or the purpose of the Vedas is to teach us how to have a better life, how to better enjoy the material world. But actually the purpose of the Vedas is described as developing character. Developing character.
Is it possible?
What?
Developing character?
Character.
Yeah. Is it possible?
I will explain.
I don't think so.
I will explain. You can comment at the end of the class.
Okay.
You can comment at the end, or you have questions at the end. I will not speak for very long. So, Srila Prabhupada says, in one of his commentaries, he says that the Vedas are not meant for the discussions and speculations of the armchair philosophers. You know, philosophers sit in a chair, smoke a cigar, and discuss the Vedas. So, but it's meant for the development of character. And what does it mean? It means developing good qualities, developing godly qualities. Tolerance, compassion, friendly attitude towards everyone, a willingness to help, goodness, cleanliness. Many, many qualities are there that human being can develop to live a better life and to be of service to others. And this fascinated me when I read that Vedas are meant for the development of character. But there is something more than this. As I was studying this literature, actually we have so many books. We don't have them. You have some of them here. See this book, this blue book there with these yellow circles. This is only first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam has 12 cantos, and I don't know how many volumes. 18 volumes, I think it has 18 volumes. In English edition, I don't know in German how many volumes you have. And it has 18,000 verses or 12,000 verses? 18,000 verses. So now there is, whatever is spoken in the Gita is elaborated in this book in more detail. So you can learn more about how to live, how to organize society, how to be a leader, how to take responsibility. So everything is given for us to learn, and we can learn from people who live this knowledge, who live according to this knowledge. And this is what really fascinated me about devotees. They are actually practicing what they preach. Now, some are more successful in this, some are less successful, but they are trying to practice what they teach and what they preach. And then, now if I ask you, what is the essence of life? What would you say? To survive? Okay. What else? Anybody else?
To be happy.
To be happy? Okay. What else? You agree?
Yeah, I agree with much.
Okay.
That, yeah.
So we have three. So three more.
To love.
To love. Excellent. More?
To give and serve.
To serve. To serve? Okay. And you?
To be happy.
To be happy. So we have how many votes? How many votes?
Protected.
For happiness we have 3 votes. For service 1, for love 1, and for survival 1. Nice. Okay, so our teacher Srila Prabhupada said the purpose of life is to be happy. But how to be happy? That's the question. So he explained that to how to be happy. To be happy by loving service. By serving with love. So love is included, service is included, happiness is included, and survival is included also. So everything is there. And now it's not easy to love. How many of you agree that it's not easy to love? No, nobody's raising their hand. Yeah. We all have experienced that we have tried to love and it was not easy. There was some challenges, there were some difficulties. So now, what does these books of wisdom say about love and about developing love? These books are teaching us how to love unconditionally. So what does it mean to love unconditionally? It It means to love love and serve without expecting anything in return. Now that's hard. That's very hard to do. That's very hard to do. But it seems that if God exists, He has put before the human race this challenge to develop unconditional love. And sometimes this is tested very much. This understanding is tested. In our tradition, there is a lot to learn about unconditional love and unconditional giving. And many very saintly personalities, even incarnations of God, they have exemplified, they have shown by example how to do this, how to behave, how to forgive also, how to forgive. One who has love in his heart, he can actually forgive. He can forgive. And in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita, there is explanation of Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma. People have heard of the word Dharma. Dharma is mentioned in many traditions. It's mentioned in Buddhism, it's mentioned in Hinduism, it's mentioned in Shivaism. In many traditions, Dharma is mentioned. And but the meaning of Dharma is not always very clear. Sometimes people think it's fate, sometimes people say it's duty, sometimes people say it's truth. And all these meanings are actually meanings of Dharma. But there is one meaning of Dharma which is not very much explained. Dharma means characteristic, something that you cannot separate from the object or the person. Characteristic. So what is the characteristic of salt?
Salt? Salt.
Salt.
Salt. Yeah.
What is the characteristic of salt? The main characteristic.
Nothing. Just
salty.
nothing.
It's salty.
Salt is salty. Sugar?
Sweet.
Water?
No taste.
That's
Water, no taste. Water is liquid and transparent. Okay, you can say maybe no taste. But Krishna says, I am the taste of water. so Krishna is very tasty. Everything has its main characteristic. And the scriptures say that our main characteristic is service. Our main characteristic is service. And not any service, but service with love. Loving service. So if we forget this, if we forget that we have been created to serve and love, then our life becomes empty. In the material world, we grow up to be selfish, because we see that people around us are selfish sometimes, and we start to want something for me, my life, my family, but even you can expand it, my nation, etc., etc. So I, me, and mine, it's called ahamameti or ahamama. This is in Sanskrit. So one becomes self-centered. He wants something for himself, for his own enjoyment. And the opposite of this is becoming selfless, becoming compassionate, being willing to do for others, even to sacrifice for others. And so these are things that are known throughout history. These things are known throughout history to the humankind, and people are always discussing these things about godly qualities and non-godly qualities, about selfishness and selflessness, and things like this. And some people are more attracted to become self-centered, and some people are more attracted to become selfless and to keep. And now we see that those who are selfish cannot be happy. They cannot be happy. And those who are selfless, they are the most happy people. The most happy people on this planet are givers, not takers. But materialistic society teaches us to get a lot of things so that we can be happy, feel safe, have a lot, get for yourself or for your family like this. Just get things and be safe by having a lot of things. But actually this doesn't give people happiness. Rich people, famous people, they commit suicide, they're unhappy, they go to courts, they have material things that everybody desires, but they are not happy. So what scriptures say, what Bhagavad Gita says, that the soul can be happy if it's serving selflessly, if it's giving. And this is the meaning of Sanatana Dharma. And we always, like Bob Dylan said, it may be the devil or it may be the God, but you've got to serve somebody. So you're always serving someone, but depending on whom you choose to serve, you get a result and you get your feeling or whatever from that service. So now people, like some people speak about the universe, and they speak that universe is abundant. It has that it just has so much abundance, and some people say that a scarcity is a myth, and I agree to that. Agree with that. That if we look around this planet, there is so many resources, but because of the greed of the human being, some people have less, some people have more, or selfishness. And if the humans develop, how you say, raise their consciousness, then they become more selfless. And there is one book written together by a Muslim and a Christian. It's called The Power of Giving. And there is a story in that book which describes how, in Africa sometimes there is these tribes that run away from one country on the other because in one country they are torturing them. There is these criminals and, like mafia who is attacking them and robbing them and raping them. And so they ran away and they came to one village in another country, African country. They crossed the border. And in this village already there was other refugees and people are very poor and they live like 6 people in one room or 7 people or more. But they understood how they felt when they ran away from from their difficult situation, and they were very compassionate and they accepted these people and spread them in different houses. Two here, two here. If 6 people can eat, 8 people can eat also. They divide this food that have, and they all survived. They all survived and developed their life like this. So these people, although they didn't have much, but they shared what they have. They shared what they have, and in this way, all of them survived. So there is a power in this understanding and this mentality. And you have heard the saying, the more you give, the more you get. But to me, this is not a complete saying. The complete saying is, the more you give, the more you get, so you can give even more. So that sounds better. So the soul cannot be happy if it's selfish. The soul cannot be happy if it doesn't serve. Now, we have a loving propensity, we have serving propensity, but now this propensity is directed toward family or husband, wife, toward nations sometimes, sometimes toward the whole planet. And we are trying to direct this loving propensity, serving propensity towards so many objects, but if one directs this loving propensity towards God, who is the supreme whole, we can say, then this propensity can be fulfilled in a most perfect way. And then also, if you love the whole, you love also all the parts of the whole. And living entities are parts of God. So if we develop, or not develop, but awaken, it's already there, we awaken our love for God, then we will be able to love everyone in the most perfect way and to serve everyone in the most perfect way. So this is briefly about the Bhagavad Gita, the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, and again I want to say that this is not something new. This is very, very ancient, very old, but also, although it's ancient, it's still very relevant today. As we say, ancient wisdom for modern times, but actually universal principles, universal laws are there, universal principles are always there, they're always the same, and they are described in this book and in other Vedic literature. And Bhagavad Gita is so practical, like in the 17th chapter, it teaches us how to speak, how to talk to others, how to talk to ourselves. It teaches us how to think, what to think about, very practical things, how to sleep, how to eat. In the 6th chapter, for example, there is so many practical instructions, and also philosophy. So our origin is that we are divine, of the divine origin, we are spiritual particle, and we are eternal. And now we are in the situation that we have a material body, and we identify with this, and we are full of fear, because we think, if this body is destroyed, I will be destroyed. But actually we are not this body. We are not this body. We are the particle which never is destroyed, even if body is dead. And this particle is the soul, and it goes on to another body, or if it gets higher consciousness, it goes to the spiritual world. Okay, so this is briefly about Krishna consciousness and Bhagavad Gita. And now we can actually have questions. If you have questions, we can discuss more if you have any questions, even about other questions, not only in relation to what I was talking about. And so, yes.
If you allow, I say something from my experience, if
Yes.
possible.
Yes.
Yes, so about the character. Also, I didn't believe it's possible to change. Yes, but if we know, if we're learning, if we want to learn, or if we want to be taught, someone brings us the knowledge to understand what is